the game.
Hi, I'm Kelsa Dickey, the CEO of the Financial Coach Academy and my financial coaching business, Fiscal Fitness Phoenix. My coaching journey began more than a decade ago with me helping people for free from my dining room table. What was once a little business of mine has grown into a 7-figure company that employs a team of people. My goal is simple, to help you fall more and more in love with financial coaching. I believe financial coaching is the most rewarding way to make a living. If you are an aspiring financial coach or have been coaching for years, I'm here to help you create a business you love that gets your clients massive results. Let's get to it.
Hey, financial coaches, I am super excited for today's episode. We have another Success Stories interview, and we are going to have Jessica Medina on the podcast today. And I am so thrilled. Jessica is on a mission to help attorneys create the financial freedom they need to do big things. She has designed her business in such a unique way, and that's what we're going to focus on in today's interview. But so many of you probably know Jessica because she shares so openly and so freely and so graciously. She is awesome. She is all about lifting others up with her on this journey, which I so appreciate. And she's usually known for her awesome niche and how the niche has really helped her soar and be successful in business. She has a niche of helping attorneys who are in big law to feel successful with money, and she understands that because of where she comes from. But the part of this interview that I really want to focus on with Jessica's awesomeness is that she has such a cool design to her business and the way that she does things during the year. She has a specific season to client attraction, if you will, when she really is hitting the ground running with her marketing and onboarding people and getting them ready. And then she has a fulfillment period, or she's usually always in fulfillment, but there's a very specific time of year where she's attracting clients, and then a time of year where she's not. And so, Jessica, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. Can you just dive right into the deep end and tell everybody a little bit about that unique design to your year that you have?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Kelsa. I'm excited about this conversation. My business has morphed over the years, but a lot of how I've designed it has been in response to my own personal life and the needs that I had for personal time in order to make my business work for my life. And so I realized in 2022, my husband's 50th birthday present was to follow the Atlanta Falcons around in our RV. That was going to be a season-long endeavor. It was going to require a lot of traveling, potential non-internet spaces that we would be in. And so I actually crafted my business that year to make sure that I would be able to pretty much take that quarter off from selling in particular. For me, client fulfillment is actually easier than selling. Selling is the part of the business that requires a lot of my creative energy. It requires a lot of my active and engaged energy. And I knew I just wasn't going to be available to the market in the way that I normally am. So I basically tried to fill my client roster in the first 6 months. And I did it, and it felt pretty good. So I have continued to create a cadence to my sales activity. So I always do the Client Creator Challenge in the beginning of the year. And then summer tends to be a pretty good time for people to actually sign up to work with me because they're gearing up for fall. And so those are kind of my two big selling seasons. And then I use the other seasons to just make sure that my clients are moving through the programs well and getting ready for whatever I might want to be planning for the following year.
Yeah, I love it. And there's so many intricacies of that, right? Like that your niche is okay with that. They're okay with starting later. That works for your schedule and your life. And you kind of like the compartmentalization of that, right? Where some coaches might actually prefer consistent activities every single week, little by little, and there's not a right or a wrong answer. It's just sort of a new idea, and I loved the fact that it's just such a cool way of doing it. And I love that you use the Client Creator Challenge to help you do that in the spring of every year too, because it's so fun to see you just take action during the Client Creator Challenge. It's such an inspiration to everybody. But I know that's not where you started. Like you said, you've had quite the journey with your coaching business. So let's go back to the beginning, and how did it all start?
So I practiced law in the DC metro area for nearly 15 years. And across those years, I worked for a large law firm, which is where most students of top law schools end up getting funneled. I was one of them. But I was a little special because I graduated from law school as a single mom of twins. So I also needed that big law money to be able to manage my family and my $200,000 of student loan debt that I took away from law school. And so, my career, I always wanted to be an attorney, and I thought that I would be one for the rest of my life. And I kind of fell out of love with the practice, probably around the 4 to 7 year mark. And when I was looking around and having my existential crisis, I wasn't sure what I wanted to go into next. And I found financial coaching. I'm an accredited financial counselor, and I've been working with clients since 2018 when I first took the AFCPE exam. And I've been working as a profitable business since 2020 after meeting Kelsa.
Yes. That way it can be more rewarding, right? Like we get so much satisfaction and fulfillment from the work that we do, but also we want it to add to our life, right? I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that whatsoever. So I love that. Could you sort of, leading up to the decision to make that big distinction from 2020 to the year that you traveled in an RV with your husband, following around the Falcons, what was that middle phase like before you made the decision? Did you feel like you were in hustle mode a lot of the times? Like, how did you come to realize, I guess, where'd the self-awareness come from that like marketing takes a lot of energy, more energy than the fulfillment side of things? I guess just talk a little bit more about the progress that happened, the growth that you experienced during that time of your business.
Yeah, so 2020 was the year that I decided I wanted to do this as a business and not a nonprofit. So I finally made that decision in my own head, which allowed me to then try to track down resources to help me actually make that a reality. And I niched down to helping specifically lawyers, and that was a really big shift in my business and my overall success. Remember, 2020 was the pandemic. So I think a lot of people started new businesses and had a lot of high hopes for that year. And I anticipated that people would really be reaching out because I was an accredited financial counselor, and that's not what I saw. People were too terrified to even be able to ask for help. But when I focused on lawyers in particular, I think they really liked the fact that I had practiced before. It opened up a way for me to market that felt very authentic. I wasn't just talking about money and personal finance. I was talking about the lawyer experience.
Yes.
And there's so many emotions that are wrapped up, especially for big law attorneys. I was able to speak directly to that and how that stress shows up in their financials. And so I think a lot of people were just really relieved to find someone who not only understood the money part, but would also understand what their day-to-day life looked like. So when I started marketing to lawyers, my business took off. I had, a tenfold increase from 2020 to 2021 in terms of my overall revenue. And that was when I realized that client fulfillment needs to be scattered about because I can't serve everyone simultaneously. And marketing is nearly a full-time job in terms of making sure that people are hearing about you, that new people are hearing about you. As an attorney, I was very hesitant to be on social media. My job was literally to read other people's messages and read other people's emails. So I was very private for so much of my career. And then becoming a business owner and kind of, breaking out on social media, it was a really big transition for me. And it required a little more energy than I think I was used to in my normal life.
Yeah.
But once I started getting clients more regularly, then I realized that, if I could harness my client creation activity in certain seasons of the year, that would mean that I could take other seasons to focus on other parts of my business or other parts of my life.
Yes.
There's a lot of back office stuff that falls to the wayside when I'm, concentrating on selling, but that stuff is becoming more important as my business has grown and has evolved. And I need to make time for that, and being able to take my foot off the gas a little bit with respect to marketing can be helpful.
I love how you were talking about that you were able to speak to your clients, right? And that's really what I think helped with your client attraction and all of that. It wasn't just like, yes, hey, I'm good with numbers. It's, I get it. I get what you're going through. I get your doubts. I get your worries, all of that. And that's really the, riches are in the niches sort of thing, right? We say that all the time. I'm curious with that. You talked about graduating with $200,000 in student loan debt. I'm curious how much of that, if any, played into your perspective on money or your desire to help people with money, or if you, and I don't actually know if that was paid off, as you were coaching or before, or if you still have it, and you can talk about that as much or as little as you want. But I'm curious if thinking, I had debt at one point, and will people doubt my abilities to be a financial professional because I had $200,000 in student loan debt? Or does that make me relatable because I had $200,000 and so do most of my clients? And we hear this all the time from coaches of like, well, I can't help anybody until I get out of debt first, or I can't, like all these different things. And so I would love to hear how your particular story or with debt played into your business model.
Well, many of my clients have mortgage-sized student loan debt, just like I did. And I think that I always considered that one of my superpowers as a financial coach, that I had an intimate understanding of what it felt like to go into what is supposed to be a profession that takes care of that debt for you and not have that be the reality. And so I think for a lot of attorneys and, a lot of American graduates right now, student loan debt is a huge problem across professions, even for people, right, who don't necessarily even graduate with a degree. And figuring out how to have a plan for something that is, the cost of a house without the house to show for it, that is really where the relief comes from. And I didn't have a plan for so many years. It was just something I thought I would take to my grave because I'm old enough that all the forgiveness programs weren't in effect when I graduated. And when I started coaching my clients, I still carried some student loan debt, but I knew exactly when it would be paid off. And I had been very intentional in how I was paying down my debt, which debts I was prioritizing. I knew why I was prioritizing it. And I was able to articulate my strategy in a way that made me really confident that I could help other people walk that path that made sense for them and for their finances. Because I attacked my loans in all different ways over the entire payoff journey. And so I understand that sometimes you can't go all hard, 100%, full gas. Sometimes you have to take your foot off the gas for other financial priorities. Sometimes, relief programs pop up out of nowhere and you want to take advantage of them. So who knows what's going to be happening with student loans over the next few years.
Oh, yeah,
but
for sure.
Understanding that was such a complicated area. And I felt pretty confident in terms of I now understood how to create a plan for myself and for others. And I knew how unsettling it was to not have a plan before. I felt very qualified to have those conversations. And I have since paid them off.
That's
I celebrate that anniversary every year.
Congratulations. That's got to feel so great. I actually love this conversation because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you primarily do one-to-one coaching, but you have also added this offer or a service specifically focused on student loans. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Why did you decide? Let's take one step back even before that. Okay, so you do a 45-minute consultation with somebody, right? That's how people reach out to you. That's typically how they start. What's that?
Mm-hmm. That's how you get started with me. You got to get on the phone. I can't work with you if I haven't talked to you.
Yeah, I love it. A typical client without the student loan offer, let's set that aside for just a second, because this is kind of what you've had in place for a very long time. Tell me about the design of that. So what do they do first with you? How many sessions is it? What does that look like? And then what's sort of like the second step? Break that down for us.
My core offer is a 6-month coaching program. And I work with my clients for at least 6 months. I give them a year to go through the entire program because I work with attorneys and some of them get pulled on trials or pulled on deals. So I'm pretty flexible with my clients. But in that 6 months, we have 3 major frameworks that we go through. Number 1, I help them create a vision for their money and do some long-term financial planning. Most of my clients want to make a transition. Often they want to take a pay cut. And I help them map out how they could do that, both in terms of the short-term ramifications of things they might need to change about their lifestyle and the longer-term ramifications of after you've taken the pay cut, what are the chances that you might still be able to reach some of your longer-term goals? Because that's really what causes a lot of stress for my clients.
Sure. How does it all fit together?
Exactly. So once we do the high-level strategies, then we go into cash management, which is my favorite part of my program. And I build them a personalized cash management system based on principles that I've gleaned from all different types of cash management, operations from different experts and my own experience managing my own money. I teach them the system that I built for myself. Cool. And then we run it for the rest of the time and make sure that everything is running smoothly. They understand how the system works. It's working the way that they expected. If we have to tweak it, that's the benefit of everything being personalized. But that's what we cover in the 6 months together. And then I always just make sure, because a lot of my clients might get a new job or move or have a baby or have some huge life change while we're working together, we revisit those long-term strategies and those high-level goals that they had set out originally and make sure they still fit and everything still works.
I
And
love it.
then once they've graduated, I have some other, kind of alumni programs, but that's my core offer. And that's what I do with most of my clients.
Awesome. I love it. It just gives me chills because it's just so, it's so perfect. I just love it. It's so well crafted and clearly articulated, first of all. And I want to point out for somebody who's listening, a newer coach, and it's 6 months. We do vision and long-term planning. We do cash flow. And then we do implementation and sort of finessing it into your life, right? The practical application of that cash flow plan. And that takes 6 months. And I just want to point out, because I have a feeling some coaches are trying to think that they can do all of that in like 1 month or in 3 sessions or 4 sessions or something like that. Give it time to breathe, right? And have these conversations and allow the client to simmer on some of the ideas. Like that long-term planning and vision, like you're saying for your clients, they're coming in with lots of worries, lots of hesitations, probably years of doubt, thinking that it isn't possible, or they're going to have to give up certain things in order for them to take a pay cut and that kind of thing. We need time to help them work through all of that, right, when we're casting those visions. So I think you do such a good job of like creating that space for people. Also, to your credit, understanding your niche. They're busy professionals, right? They've got intense periods of time that over 6 months, some things will probably change. So we have to have some flexibility there, which I love. So then you've had that for so long. And then I know you now have the student loan offer. So why don't you explain what that is? And at the exact same time, if you could sort of explain, why did you decide to add an offer?
So I had been playing around with the fact that my 6-month program is really designed for a particular type of attorney. It's generally for people who are about to go through a transition or have just transitioned and are totally freaked out by it. And so I wanted something that was a little bit more accessible, both in terms of the price point and in terms of the commitment on the client's part. I also just have a very soft spot for people who are struggling with student loan debt. I don't think there are a lot of great resources out there for people who have questions about this. There's lots of free resources out there, but they're confusing. And it's really hard to get personalized guidance without having, with someone who actually knows what they're talking about. I have so many clients who actually already have a financial advisor, and their advisor has no idea how to deal with their student loans. The advice is always the same: just pay them off as quickly as you can. And I just I have to bite my tongue because that is not the great process for everyone, especially if they're about to take a pay cut. So, I think it was really important to me to be able to offer to my general audience something that, gave them some relief from something that is so stressful. And so I created a specialized, very streamlined student loan offer based on the backbone of a lot of my free student loan resources. But my offer includes some one-on-one time with me, as do all of my offers. That's just kind of a core part of my company. I believe that financial coaching has to involve some sort of one-on-one element because it is so personalized.
I totally agree.
We'll check back in 5 years, but I don't see myself creating a course. I don't see myself creating some sort of DIY product. I don't like them. I don't like them for my clients, and I don't want to execute them.
So I think that is such good awareness to have. Yeah, that's wonderful awareness. Do you find that your clients who do the student loan program go into the other core offer? Is there any sort of synergy between the two, either back and forth in either direction? It sounds like to me, but correct me if I'm wrong, that in your core offer, an attorney wouldn't go from that into the student loan thing because it probably includes some student loan analysis, I would assume. Okay. So do you find that some people just do the student loan, but then eventually go into your core offer?
So if you had asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have said, no one transfers. They're completely different avatars. They're completely different clients. Oftentimes, if someone needs the 6-month program, student loans probably aren't even their biggest worry. There's a lot of other things going on, and student loans are just going to be another thing that we give them relief on and a plan to handle as part of their larger transition. My student loan clients generally were just struggling with student loans. I have a couple, of people who may have potentially been candidates for a 6-month program, but the investment of time and of resources would not have made sense given where they were in their practice and where they were on their financial journey. But I will say I have one client who has graduated now from the student loan offer to my 6-month program. But when I talked to her, she was like, yeah, no, we need to work with you for 6 months, but we're going to start with the student loans so that I can get my husband on board. And then we're just going to graduate up to the 6 months. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. That sounds perfect. Let's get
Yeah.
everyone comfortable with the process. And then we're going to go from there.
So smart. But I see a trend starting, Jessica. I'm here for it. Okay. I just want to say, was it Bali that we were talking about the student loan offer? Was it 2 years ago that so one thing for coaches to know is Jessica is a regular at the Inspired Grace Retreat, which I love. This episode is not going to be released until later in the year, but we are maybe, let's see, 7, 8 days. For me, I'm flying out in like 7 or 8 days for Ireland. So I'm going to get to see you soon, not virtually, but in person. I can't wait to see you soon. We're going to be in Ireland very soon. But I think it was Bali was that the first, was it 2 years ago that you first had the idea of like adding an offer around student loans and we were sort of like mapping all of that out? It's just so cool to see the journey of like from when the idea first comes about of like, I see a need or I have a desire and it looks so unformed and sort of messy and sort of like it's just a thing that I'm exploring, right? To now see it, I think 2 years later, but correct me if I'm wrong on that timeline, that it's like you can speak about it so eloquently, you're confident, you know exactly what you deliver with it, you know that it gets people results, and it's just so cool to see that transition. Was it about 2 years ago that conversation first started, or it wasn't last year in Greece, was it?
So I think Bali was definitely the first time that I even entertained the idea of creating other offers beyond my core 6-month offer. I sold one thing for 18 months and I did not veer from that path. And I think it served me very well.
I agree.
In terms of figuring out what my clients need, figuring out who I like working with, really streamlining the delivery of that program. It remains my core offer and the backbone of my business. But when we were in Bali, I was trying to figure out ways that I could expand my impact without necessarily having to grow a huge team or, I was playing around with courses then because I hadn't come into my own and really accepted that I want to be someone who provides personalized one-on-one services to everyone that comes to me. And figuring out how to do that at somewhat of scale is still something that I noodle through. But the student loan offer ended up being something that I can do, way at a much larger scale than my 6-month offer. But then I also added the speaking, which has helped me increase the impact and also be able to, increase financial wellness of attorneys everywhere.
Yeah, so that perfect segue into, all of the awesome foundation that you've built with your core offer, a really specific cadence throughout the year that I think boosts your energy, right, and your satisfaction with your work, and focusing on what you love, which is the one-to-one time with your clients. Being good with saying, that's not for me, that's for other people, that's okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not for me, I love that. And then it came time to start thinking about scaling, okay? And you sort of decided on speaking as your scaling endeavor, the strategy that you want to use. So how did you decide that? Was that the only thing you were considering for a while? Or, like you kind of knew that that's what you wanted, or had you considered other things first, but you landed in speaking? And just talk about the thought process that went into that time of your business where you were really thinking about how can I scale this?
So when we were in Bali, I literally came up with, I want speaking to be another arm of my business. And I thought that I wanted to just be speaking at retreats like yours, right? I want people to hire me to fly to exotic places and speak to their attorneys about money stuff. That was going to be my dream.
Can we tell everybody a little secret that we all like staged us speaking? Like one of us would stand in a speaking spot and the rest of us would sit around and be like, oh, and like we were all taking photos. And we're like, oh, this is our branding photos. It was so much fun. Anyway, keep going.
And that did take 2 full years to come into its own. And so, like you said, for all of the people who are listening, you can have a really great idea, and it may take a little bit of time for it to percolate, for it to be the right time in your business and in your life for you to really, execute that idea. Because I remember then we were in Greece the following year at your next retreat, and Jill and I were still talking about speaking because I hadn't done anything. And I had just spent a year thinking about it and hoping and wishing and praying and wanting.
Thinking. We cannot discount the value of just thinking about something, though, and seeing where that leads us. I think that was so valuable. I know we tend to be action takers and we want to see progress in like a very tangible way, but I believe, I actually just had a meeting with my team today, and there's been an idea that we have been discussing for a solid year, okay? A solid year. And I just said today that we kind of just last week had to take like a couple of steps back on this idea that we have. Just, you get some information and you're like, okay, well, let's maybe reconsider it in this way. And I just said on the team meeting today, I was like, listen, I don't know if anyone's frustrated by the fact that we need to take a little bit of a left turn here, but I am not frustrated by this. This is the creative process. When we're launching something big, which is the idea that we have, it's going to take time. We've got to percolate. We're going to have a conversation, get feedback from people, and then sort of reevaluate that I want this to take time because that means we might be or more likely that we're doing it right. So some of these big things do take time. So I don't see anything wrong with that. So now it's been another year, though. So you, in Greece, started talking about speaking. And where are you now with your speaking?
I am a well-paid speaker on the financial wellness circuit for law firms and bar associations. So I now speak at law firms. They hire me and bring me in to give workshops for their summer associates, their new associates, all of the attorneys at the firm. I'm going to be speaking at a state bar conference in November. And, I think this has been like you said, it took me a long time to really take action on the idea. But when I took action, everything happened fairly quickly because I had already established myself in the market as someone who knows what they're talking about. I had done a lot of free speaking, so I was a known element in the financial wellness world with respect to attorneys. I had a lot of connections that I could pull from, and I was in the middle of a client creator challenge, so I used it to, really light a fire under myself and get my speaking business off the ground. And it is a major revenue source in my business right now, and it allows me to touch the lives of so many more attorneys, way more than I could with my one-on-one practice, and I'm okay with that for now. And I'm looking to see how this develops, how I enjoy it, curriculum that I can create that is, more about teaching and less about, the specific one-on-one work that I do with my individual clients. But I've already gotten individual clients from my speaking gigs, so it's also a marketing funnel for me. Yeah. So it serves a lot of purposes. It also feeds my travel habit, and it's been a really nice evolution. But to your point, it was an overnight success after 2 years of work.
I love it. I know, Jessica, that impact is so important to you. And so I just want you to know, in case you ever have moments where you doubt this, that you are having such a beautiful impact on the people that you take care of and shifting perspectives and mindsets in the legal profession. I have no doubt. And more of that is absolutely needed. You're positioned perfectly to be the one to deliver that. And also, thank you for the impact you have in my communities and with other financial coaches. And you truly just share so freely and give of yourself. And I just want you to know that you are having a positive impact already. I have no doubt that there will be more to come from your efforts. And I would love I just wanted two last questions. The first one, is there any specific aspects? You have been an OG member of the mastermind, the official financial coach mastermind. So you're an OG member. So you've been stuck with me for years. Are there any specific aspects of that were most helpful for you in this journey? And you can touch on the mastermind. You could also touch on the retreat. Either one of those two things, I would say.
So I have been in your space now for 4 years. And what I would say is that, especially in the mastermind and obviously on the retreats, even just the small glimmers of individual attention that you can get on a problem that maybe I've been noodling over for a long time, and I can just put a post into the mastermind and you will hop on and just go live and answer it and really help me think through how to approach it for myself. That has been invaluable. And I think for people who are running their own business, we don't always have the bandwidth to show up somewhere at a particular time. right? Or get a question answered in a particular forum. And so I really appreciate that you and your team have made it very easy for business owners to asynchronously get individualized guidance. And I think so that's where, obviously that's also why I like to spend a week with you at gorgeous international getaways, because that stuff happens all the time during that week.
Totally.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yes. I can't wait.
So I think that has been one of the biggest impacts for me, is just knowing that even though I may not be working one-on-one with you or with Jill, I can still get that one-on-one attention when I need it.
Yeah.
And, as a more evolved coach, I don't always need it, but man, when I need it, the mind drama, it might take me 2 years to get through it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, just like that the way that you like to help your clients is with that private one-to-one time. We feel the same way about being able to offer that one-to-one guidance to coaches. We might not be set up to offer like a 1-hour coaching session necessarily, but we can do the breakout private coaching sessions. We can hop on with, go live. We can do all of that because that is what coaches need oftentimes. They need somebody to talk through those decisions with and all of that. That feels like such an important part of growth and progress to me personally, as far as like how I want to be showing up for people. So I'm so glad that you appreciate it and that you notice it. What advice do you have for newer coaches? So if you could look back, somebody could give you a piece of advice that would have really helped speed things up or move you along faster or save you some heartache or maybe even save you some money. Any tips for a newer coach listening?
I think in terms of certainly saving the heartache, and we talked about this a little bit, things do take time. I feel like even for the most successful coaches, even when you have some early success, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's immediately repeatable forever into eternity. And so, I think it's important to give yourself time to really try. So if you're, new to social media, don't abandon it after 2 to 3 weeks. You got to give that stuff 6 months to percolate. That's about what it takes for something to start working. If you're trying out a new offer, you may have amazing success with your first run, and then your second run is a flop. That has happened to me, and it's been very disconcerting. And I really just need to look at, do I love this offer? Do I want to figure out how to sell this offer because I know that my people need it? And when I have done that, it has become successful. It just didn't happen as quickly as I thought that it would. So I think it really is a combination of understanding that there are just some practical realities to building a business, breaking into a new market, redefining yourself in your world, and also that sometimes you got to try a little harder. And that's okay. Because if you believe in it, you will figure out a way to make it work. Then it will be.
Love that. I love that. You're exactly right. If you believe in it, you will make it work. And honestly, on our team, sometimes when things, and even the mastermind too, I would say, whenever something goes really easy or happens really fast, or it's like way better right away than what you're expecting, we're all sort of like, wait, what? Is this okay? Like, is everything going? You know what I mean? So it's almost like be pleasantly surprised and celebrate when that happens. But don't beat yourself up when it doesn't, because more than likely than not, this stuff does take a little bit longer to finesse and really figure out sort of like what people need and how they need it and all that kind of stuff and how we're going to talk about it. And, having someone like you on who feels so confident in her offers and understands her people so well, that didn't happen overnight. Right? So it's because you've been talking about it for years and all of that. This was such an incredible conversation. As always, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights, your creativity, your value to everybody. Thank you so much for being my guest on today's show.
This was so fun. Thanks for having me.
I believe financial coaching is the best and most rewarding way to make a living. I truly love what I do. If you're ready to learn and see how to become a profitable, successful financial coach, check us out at financialcoachacademy.com to learn more about our online courses, free trainings, and events. As always, I love hearing from you. If you have any questions for the FCA podcast or to share your thoughts on the reflection question from today's episode, go to financialcoachacademy.com/podcast. And if you love this podcast, hit the thumbs up button on today's episode, subscribe, and leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to me. I'll see you next week, Coach.